Every year, millions of people, if not billions of people, make New Year's resolutions. And by February, the overwhelming majority of these resolutions are forgotten. I know that you've been there before. I know that I've been there before. But what if I told you that there's one resolution for 2025 that could change your entire life? Not just for a year, but for eternity. This isn't just about self-improvement. This is about transforming your whole relationship with God. Stick with me because you cannot afford to ignore this. So I think there's a lot of social pressure and also personal pressure that builds up around the idea of New Year's resolutions. Every single year at this time, we're put in this season where everybody's talking about New Year's resolutions and you're forced to be more introspective. And what happens is there's a mix of emotions that builds up because many of us analyze our lives and come to conclusions like, oh man, I'm not where I thought I was gonna be. I'm not as rich as I thought I was gonna be. I failed to start that business I said I was gonna start, or I tried it and it didn't work out. I'm not where I wanted to be. I'm not as fit. I'm not as skinny. I'm not as muscular. A lot of these things that we're analyzing about ourselves, it's all about us and how we feel, our personal fulfillment, and it's truly not about God. What if your resolutions for 2025 were centered around God's will for your life and not your own will for your life? See, the reality is most New Year's resolutions fail because of one of two things. Number one is that they're rooted in a selfish and prideful manner. It's all about us, and honestly, humans are prone to fail. Shout out Adam and Eve, like look how that turned out. And number two, most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate how much they can achieve in a year. True success is found through small incremental changes, not making vast changes and expectations to your character and personality that are hard to upkeep. And then when we fail those expectations, it actually leads us to more discouragement than we had in the first place. And if we truly break down the idea of making resolutions for our life, it's really about fulfillment, because we believe that achieving these goals that we're setting for ourselves will give us some sense of fulfillment. But the hard truth is that even when many of us do hit these goals, we still feel empty because these things we're working for are fleeting. The more you center your life around what you lack, and you hyper focus on attaining things that you don't have, rather than being grateful for the things you do have and working towards the actual things that gain fulfillment, even if you do gain, you still are going to feel unfulfilled because there's always going to be something new that you lack. I want you to ask yourself, if resolutions truly worked, then why do we set them every single year? If setting a goal and actually achieving it actually provided a true sense of fulfillment, we wouldn't be setting New Year's resolutions every single year. The last year would have been the last year. In fact, the first time you set those New Year's resolutions, it would have been the last time you would ever need to set that. The truth is that these things will never ever provide the fulfillment that we're looking for. This reminds me of the passage Psalms 23. It's a very popular passage in Christian culture. I feel like a lot of us grew up hearing it in church or hearing it around our culture, whatever it may be. But if you actually take a time to meditate and understand the words that are being said in this passage, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. A lot of us either don't recognize as the Lord being our shepherd, or in other words, our ultimate authority, or we still want because we think that the Lord is not enough for us. It goes on in this passage to say that He restores my soul. That even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, or in other words, even though I walk through this life of trial and tribulation, I walk through tough times in life, even though I have things that I feel like I lack, I will fear no evil because He is with you. So when it comes to your New Year's resolutions, I believe that we should be focusing on these three things. Number one is committing to daily reading and studying your word in prayer. In our prayer, we need to have a posture of surrender. You can't just surrender your life once and say, oh, I surrendered my life to God a year ago. I surrendered my life to God last week. No, every single day we need to verbally remind ourselves that this life is not our own and that God is the one who directs our steps. God is the one who orders our life. And secondly, paired with that is understanding that it is our duty and our responsibility to seek the Lord through His word. If you want to hear God's voice, then read His word, understand it, study it, ask Him to open up the eyes of your heart to reveal to you what is the truth of the gospel. New Year resolution number two that I feel like a lot of us are missing is committing to be the best servant in your life. I think we live in a culture nowadays where everything is about me, me, me. Everything is about what I receive, what I deserve, how I should be treated. When we don't get treated the way that we feel like we should be treated, we have this sense of entitlement. We cut people off. We treat people poorly. We cut corners. But Jesus, through the scriptures, paints a picture that is contrary to this idea that we live in culture today. He says, the greatest among you will be the least. So if there's any relationship in your life where you're not truly approaching it with a heart of being a servant, then that is you not walking out the image of Christ. So we need to commit to ourselves every single day. Today, Lord, how would you like to use this life? How can I be the best servant to those around me? And lastly, I don't think it's bad to set goals. I actually do think that it's important for us to have something that we're working towards. But make sure that when you're setting goals, you are first asking yourself if this aligns with God's will for your life. The way that you figure that out is by the first two steps: reading your Bible, studying it every single day, praying to the Lord, asking him for direction, and being a servant in everything that you do. God's will for your life will never contradict the truth of the scriptures. He cannot contradict his own character. So if you feel like God's will for your life is to go out and make the most money possible or to get the most followers on a social platform, that's not from the Lord. God's will for your life always starts with you being a servant in some way, shape, or form. The one thing that I've realized as I've grown with God is that the will that God has for us over our lives many times is not just rooted in our passions, what makes us feel fulfilled by doing the things that we're talented at and the things that we like. A lot of times it's rooted in our burdens, people that we feel for, people that we really wish to see come to Christ. And what I've noticed is that those burdens that we have for others, to love on others, to have compassion on others, is God implementing his heart and his character inside of us so that he can use us as a vessel to reach out to those people. There's a time in my life when I was hyper-focused on myself, my goals, and my achievements. In 2019, I dropped out of college after 1 year of going to full-time college, and I told myself I was going to start a business and I was going to work to be as successful as possible. And over the course of 3 years, I started and failed multiple businesses. I focused on my business. I would take caffeine pills and basically overdose on caffeine so I could stay up and work at night. I was so focused. A lot of people looked at me and said, wow, he's such a hard worker. Like, man, like everyone should be like this. And I'll be honest, like I achieved it. My businesses eventually started succeeding. I started making money. I was living the life I wanted. I bought a new car. I was traveling, staying in the Ritz-Carlton, doing all the things that you see online from your favorite celebrities that we think signify success in life. But what happened is God allowed my businesses to crash and crumble. And I went from making literally $30,000 to $40,000 a month as a 21-year-old to now having to DoorDash just to pay the lease on my office. I was completely bankrupt. And at that time, I really felt like I was brought to my knees and God was saying, hey, if you really want to live a life that is fulfilled and purposeful, you are going to listen to me. And a couple years later, after God worked me through a season of understanding what it is to be humble, to be a servant, to walk out in diligence, I'm sitting before you today, walking in a purpose that I would not give up for anything in this world. Being able to serve you guys on this platform, being able to serve others and really have a life that is used by the Lord. There is nothing greater than this. The point I'm trying to make is that you do not have to go through all that heartbreak and bankruptcy and everything like I did just because I was so focused on myself and my ambitions and I was neglecting the will of the Lord in my life. Don't make 2025 another year of just broken resolutions. Make 2025 the year that you truly put God first. And if you're truly ready to go on this journey, hit the like button, share this video, and let me know what your commitment is in the comment section below. And I also want you to know that you're not alone. Lord willing, for the duration of 2025, I'm going to be here making videos that will challenge you, encourage you, and help you to stay true to your commitment to the Lord. Remember this truth and really believe it in your heart. When you prioritize God, He will take you through a year that is greater than anything you could have crafted for yourself. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.